Hello and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to cover some upgrades for the Corrupting Influence Precon. If you enjoy this content, then please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. It really helps other viewers discover the content I produce, and it's a great way to show support. With that said, let's dive in. The Precon uses Exile, Scion of Atraxa as the default commander and focuses on winning through the poison mechanic. Poison counters are a little contentious in EDH. I'm not really going to focus on that in my video. This video also doesn't follow any particular budget. I just want to talk about some suggestions as you know what's best for your own wallet. Exile herself is a 2/5 with Flying, Vigilance, and Toxic 2 that costs 1 white, black, and green. Also, at the beginning of your end step, each opponent who has 3 or more poison counters exiles the top card of their library face down. You may look at and play those cards as long as they remain exiled, and you may spend mana as though there's mana in any color to cast those spells. It shouldn't be too difficult to enable the end step trigger. There's a lot of proliferating in the Precon to tack up the extra poison counter after Exile applies 2 in combat. There's also plenty of infect and toxic creatures to apply additional poison counters with. I replaced 17 cards in this list, which you can find in the deck list and in the description. I'm going to cover them and some other suggestions for the list. It also shows my cuts if you're interested. The downside of building a poison deck is that there isn't a ton of support. For good or bad, there hasn't been too many sets where new cards have been printed revolving around this mechanic. This makes your options a little limited, but between All Will Be One and this Precon, there's been a ton of new support to flush this deck out with. You can always make things more efficient with tutors, ramp, etc., but I mixed it up personally. It's really up to you with how powerful you want the deck to be. So technically, Exile can provide both ramp and card advantage for us. Though the cards we steal from our opponents probably won't help the poison game plan too much, we can get land drops, ramp, and other utility from them. I think the Precon is a little light for land ramp and card draw because of this, so I added Template Discovery and Phyrexian Arena. I personally just prefer ramping with lands instead of rocks when I can, and Tempt is a fun card to run. Though if you want to keep all the rocks in this list, then it'll save you a few cuts. Speaking of lands, Inkmoth Nexus and Murex are 2 lands that play into the poison game plan. Inkmoth is easy to activate if we need an extra flyer with Infect. Murex can make small tokens with Toxic 1 for us. We can make these tokens at instant speed by sinking extra mana into it. It's not super efficient, but it's always nice to have a token effect tied into a land if we're stalling out. Next up are 2 completed Planeswalkers and Ajani Sleeper Agent and Vraska Betrayal's Sting. Both synergize very well with this Precon. Ajani can give us some card advantage, grow our infect creatures with counters we can proliferate, and give us an emblem that can apply poison counters. Vraska has proliferate tied right into her first ability, and has a cool ultimate that pushes one target opponent to the brink of death. Exile can then finish that opponent off in combat. I think they're both useful at any point in the game. They have flexible loyalty abilities that synergize with most of our game plan. There are a few infect creatures we can buff that are already in this Precon, but there are still more we can add to fill the deck out with. Skithiryx and Rotwolf are the 2 that I decided to add for my list. Rotwolf gives us some more card advantage, while the Dragon is another flyer we can use to apply poison. It can also protect itself against most board wipes with the Regenerate ability. I didn't add them personally, but it would be a disservice not to mention Blightsteel Colossus and Triumph of the Hordes for this deck. These are probably the 2 most notorious poison-related cards in EDH. If you haven't already put a target on yourself playing poison, then these will probably do it for you. They're incredibly dangerous cards in Commander that are known for being game closers. Sitting at a comfortable $65 at the time of recording, Blightsteel is a pretty pricey card for an upgrade, which is why I decided to not include it here. I also didn't think the deck would really take advantage of the usual burst poison Triumph was known for. It isn't really a go-wide deck, and it doesn't have a ton of go-tall elements to really capitalize on this card. With our Thief effect, we could really get anything, so who knows, maybe it'll be more useful than I think. Hey everyone, editing me here. I didn't know at the time of recording that Infect and Toxic actually stack. That's pretty crazy and really makes Triumph of the Hordes worth considering in this list. I'm still going to cut it personally for the reasons I mentioned, but it's worth pointing out that interaction. Alright, back to the video. Regardless of what route you take, I think one of the best ways to capitalize on poison abilities is Myriad. Blade of Selves and Legion Loyalty are 2 cards that help spread the poison corruption more effectively on all of your opponents. A common issue poison decks run into is not being able to build up poison on everyone quickly or evenly. This leads them to generally eliminating 1 or 2 people before getting knocked out of the game. Myriad helps by creating copies of these infect, toxic, or poisonous creatures that swing at everyone else. Even if they don't connect, it still applies pressure and allows us to swing into open opponents while the tokens go into unfavorable trades. The main set has several great cards we could add to the Precon. Skrelv's Hive and the Staff of Completion are 2 awesome utility cards to add to this deck. The Hive is a cool new Bitter Blossom to synergize with poison decks. Not all the creatures in this Precon have Toxic, but there's enough to make the lifelink relevant. This will help negate all the focus fire you're probably under, while also paying for the staff's different abilities. The staff is really cool. All of these effects are useful, even the one that nukes one of our own permanents. Note that it says owns and not control, so it's a cool anti-theft utility card. It also helps with cards like Journey to Eternity, since there isn't a good way to sacrifice our stuff in the Precon or among my other upgrades. I really like this card, and I think it's really useful here. A big problem with poison decks is that their threat level is really polarizing among their creature base. It's sort of the same with the new toxic creatures, and some great threat assessment from your opponents can cripple your deck. I think having a persistent reanimating effect would really help the consistency overall, and this is one of my favorite to use. Two new creatures we could add are Tyranix Rex and Necrogen Rot Priest. The Rex is Mono Green's latest catch-all mythic creature. This one can't be countered, has Trample, Haste, Ward 4, Toxic 4, and is also an 8/8 for 7 mana. It's just an absurd creature that fits our theme and applies 40% of the poison we need to kill somebody. Necrogen provides great utility for this list. It makes our toxic creatures apply extra poison counters while also giving them Death Touch at instant speed for combat tricks. It's not as flashy as the Rex, but it's still really useful, especially with all the little toxic might tokens, myriad effects, and existing toxic creatures like our commander already in the list. Sword of Truth and Justice and Bloated Contaminator provide some extra proliferation effects. The sword can grow our infect creatures both with this buff and the counters which we can then proliferate. Contaminator has Trample to get through for its combat damage trigger, which will also proliferate whatever we need. I didn't cover every suggestion I have for this precon, so if you'd like to see the rest, check out the link in the description below. If you enjoyed this video, then please consider clicking the like button and subscribing to the channel. Comment below on cards you think synergize well with this commander, and if you have any suggestions for commanders to build in the future. Thank you so much for watching, good luck, and have fun!